Why did he, 28 male, forgive me, 27 female? My boyfriend and I have been dating for 7 years now. This is his first relationship and my fourth. We've been dating since college and honestly it has been amazing. I feel like he's my soulmate and is the best thing that has ever happened to me, which is why what I did was so deplorable. We've been living together for the past year now. Ever since the pandemic, he was so busy with work. He works in a genetics/pharmaceutical company, and has been working late nights since his company is one of many trying to help the country with the whole virus issue. During this time I've been working from home, and due to feeling lonely I started talking to a co-worker of mine. It was innocent at first, we just talked like friends, and since we lived closer to each other, we often met for lunch or went over to each other's places to work together or finish up a work project. My boyfriend was fine with it and encouraged it since he had been so busy and didn't like seeing me sad. I should have stopped instead. We started hanging out more and more. One night my boyfriend had to work overnight due to something going wrong at work and he was called in to fix it. I was feeling so lonely that I went over to my co-workers for a drink, and one thing led to another and we slept together. The guilt didn't set in until the morning after, when I got a message from him asking if he wants me bring anything for breakfast on his way back. I was so ashamed and hated myself. I rushed home and told my coworker that this never happened and to not contact me again. I came home minutes before he pulled in. He was so exhausted that he showered and went for a nap. I on the other hand couldn't comprehend what to do. I knew confessing meant an end to a relationship. I had originally decided not to say anything, but when he woke up and went about his day, I started seeing every little action he did for me. He cooked dinner most nights, cleaned the dishes, starting ridiculous conversations just to interact with me, and I just couldn't hide it. After dinner, I sat him down on our bed and confessed. I've never cried so much in my entire life. He looked so defeated and broken. I've never seen him in so much pain before. He just got up, took a pillow and a blanket and said we'll talk tomorrow, without even looking at me, and left. I spent the night crying in our bed while he slept on the couch asking for space. I finally fell asleep due to exhaustion. In the morning, I came out to see breakfast made and he was missing. I was crushed thinking, he just left, until I found his letter which just told me to meet him at a local outdoor singles bar at 8 p.m. tomorrow and to wear something nice. All sorts of ideas were going in my head. Was this message saying we over? Is he gonna ask another girl out in front of me to show me how it felt? He hates cheaters with a burning passion. He broke off his friendship with his best friend whom he had known for 10 years because she cheated on her ex. He had even cut his brother off for 2 years when he found out that he was cheating on his sister-in-law. I tried calling/messaging him, but he had blocked me on everything. With what little hope I had to get him back, I went to the bar the next day. He was there drinking alone when he noticed me. He came up to me and introduced himself. I couldn't help but cry and ask for forgiveness again, and all he said was that he didn't know me and wanted to buy me a drink. I was so confused but played along, wiping my tears. It took a while for me to catch on, but apparently he wanted me to pretend as if we didn't know each other. It was so confusing, but I went along with it cause at that moment all I wanted was for him to talk to me. He then invited me to his hotel room. He then initiated intimacy and it was the best sex we ever had. It was so emotional and powerful that we ended up falling asleep afterwards. In the morning, I woke up to him holding me and looking at me. It seemed like he'd been crying. He asked me to be quiet and then said that he loved me, to never cheat again and pretend as if that never happened. I tried saying something but he shushed and just held me tightly. We came home afterwards and he's been his normal self. I don't know what to do. This is not what I expected. I was expecting months of screaming, shouting and crying. For him to demand access to my phone and whereabouts all the time. He's done nothing. I'm worried for him as this doesn't seem healthy or normal. How can someone who sees cheating in such a negative light to move on from it in just 2 days? I feel like he's in denial or something. I want to bring up my concerns, but I'm afraid I'll lose him forever if I push too much. I also can't help but wonder if he was cheating this entire time as well. If these extra hours at work was him being with someone else. He's also suddenly cut back his hours even though before he made it seem that he had to be there. I'm so confused on how process and proceed from here. Please help me, I need this to make sense. How should I talk to him about this? And now for some comments before reading the update. Geez. You better not mess this second chance up. If he had more confidence, you'd be gone after all these things you say he does for you. All the guy was asking was for you to keep your legs shut. You're extremely lucky. Also, why does a wayward always starts a post with how much they love the betrayed spouse and crap before they tell their story of how they messed them? It's like the standard cheater start to every post. Y'all are all the same. That last paragraph. Ugh. I know, right? It's so disingenuous, it's unreal how much they lie even to themselves. What a piece of scum. Don't spin this on him. Starting to think he cheated too. That would ease your mind, right? The poor guy believed that your decision to mess with another person had anything to do with him working. So he does what he can to prevent himself from getting hurt and not work that much. Getting hurt by your partner breaks your mind and perception of reality. What ought to bring peace, happiness, and safety now also bring hurt, doubts, and suffering. He is desperately trying to create out a piece of sanity around him. His mind is in turmoil where he is repressing thoughts and feelings. Sometime in the future he will probably snap and you will either help him get profit to find inner peace with you again, or you will break up with him because he is not the person you fell in love with anymore. The decision will be on your conscience. Worse if he won't snap, because you can be sure that you permanently damaged him. He will second guess his every decision. Looks for signs whether he does everything good for you so you won't decide to screw another again. Of course this will change him and you might end this relationship because he is not the person you fell in love anymore. Either way, great job. I at least hope the sex was amazing. And now for the update. Thank you for all the advice you guys have given me, and I accept the hate and judgment given to me as I deserved it. I broke a good man's heart and nothing will ever change that. So tonight he finally decided it was time to talk. It has been 2 weeks since the one night stand. He started by saying that he loved me and he wanted me to tell him why and precisely recall that night and not to leave out anything. I began to well up, but I knew this was coming and decided to power through. I started by telling him that ever since the pandemic started, he has had extended hours, which is understandable. Due to his extended hours he had been coming home very tired, and every time we were intimate, I had to take charge, which was still good but not as good as when he's dominant and taking the wheel. This doesn't mean that it's his fault by any measure, and it was my failure of communication that I let that bottle up. On the night when he was called in, he had suggested that I call a friend and make some plans because he didn't want me to be bored. That night I had made calls to most of our friends who were near where we live, and the coworker was the last on the list. When I called him, he invited me over for dinner and I agreed. After dinner, we were drinking a bit heavily and just talking. So far our talks have been very normal and nothing even remotely flirtatious. Then the topic of relationships came up and I opened up to the problem I was having. My coworker then made a move and kissed me. I, in a lapse in judgment, kissed back and we went to his bedroom where we started to have sex and he was in me, but we both passed out during and neither ever finished. I did reiterate that just because neither finished doesn't make it any better or different, and I am at fault for putting myself in a situation like this and making that choice. My BF was silent for a bit and we decided to take a break. I could tell he was very upset and was on the verge of crying. I went to the bathroom and bawled like a baby. After an hour or so we came back, and this time he asked me to let him talk and not to interrupt. He told me that for the past week and a half he's been seeing a therapist at work. That night when I told him, he couldn't sleep and wanted to talk to someone, and he decided to call his boss who had been through this with her husband. First thing she asked was if he wanted a place to stay and he declined. Next she told him that she will be effectively cutting his hours as he is not in a good state and needs the time off, and she can't have him work on very important projects going on right now considering the climate we're in. She told him he still needs to come in during his regular hours as she can't give him paid time off right now, and that she'll arrange meetings with an in-house therapist they have. She then gave him the advice to not act irrationally and actually think about what he wants and how to proceed. After the conversation and a few hours of thinking, he said that he wanted to even the playing field but not stoop to revenge cheating, hence the entire role play of coming across each other as strangers and having sex in a hotel room. That night he had gone through my phone and seen everything I've done for the past 6 months. He said that had he found any evidence that didn't match my story he was gonna walk out right now. He also said that for the past week he had been pretending everything was alright to see and study my reaction to been let off scot-free, and had I shown any relief or tried to bury what I had done, he was gonna walk. He was comforted to see my remorse was real and that he was making the right call. He then went on to tell me that although he wanted to take the next step, we have to hold off on that as the trust is not absent but is definitely broken. He did emphasize that because of my actions, if we ever do take the next step, there will have to be a prenup, and it has to include a clause for infidelity as he needs to protect himself. I was a little hurt by this, but at this point I deserve much worse, so I'll take what I can get. He told me that we need to begin couples counseling, but it would be on me to find one as he's not comfortable sharing his personal therapist. I agreed to all his demands and asked why is he not angry or screaming at me, and why is he treating me so different when he's very anti-cheating, and how he cut out his ex-best friend and his brother for a while. He said he wasn't angry at me but he was very disappointed. This is the worst. I'd rather be slapped and publicly humiliated. He said, and I quote, "I'm not gonna throw away 7 of my best years just because you made one the dumbest decisions ever. Moreover, the reason he's treating me differently is because his brother and ex-boyfriend had extended affairs 5 months and 1 year, and were both caught by their so." I on the other hand confessed within 24 hours of the one-night stand, which said a lot about my character. Had I waited even one more day, he would be out of that door so fast I wouldn't even realize it. He has made it very clear I'm on thin ice and set some very clear boundaries. He has said that if he even catches me flirting over text, he will be gone. He may eventually forgive me completely, but it doesn't mean he'll forget this. We then discussed my job and agreed that once the pandemic is over, I need to get a new one. As for now, since we need both our incomes, I'm keeping my job but need to have NC with my co-worker, and since we're in different departments it should help, and if there needs to be any communication, my BF will have to know. I asked him if he blamed himself for any of this and he quite coldly replied no, for which I'm glad, as I don't want him to blame himself for my choices. I told him, I went for an STD panel today, for which he's glad I took the initiative, as he was more disappointed by the fact we didn't use a condom than anything. So looks like I have hope and I'm gonna grab onto it and never let go. I have never felt luckier in life to someone who is willing to at least give it a shot. All I can pray for is that we come out of this together, because if I can't have him, I will never be happy again. If he does forgive me, I'm gonna make sure he feels loved and happy every day. I want this to work so badly I'll do anything. Now for some closing comments. Wow, it didn't take much for you to cheat. You were lonely because he had to work, so he suggested you hang out with a friend. You pick a guy and go screw him. I would dump you in a flash, but I have a lifetime of experience and understand how these things end up. To top it off, there are no children and you two aren't married. You don't deserve a second chance. You better not screw it up. Just some advice. Do not talk to others about your relationship, such as co-workers. If there is an issue, talk to your partner. Sadly, you will never be seen the same by your partner and the trust has been broken for good. Best of luck. Saved by the sunk cost fallacy. I wouldn't expect a ring anytime soon. Be careful you don't fall into complacency and start asking, "Aren't you over this yet?" or "Don't you trust me?" I know it sounds silly right now that you'd take this forgiveness for granted, but give it a few months and you'll find yourself thinking it. Your boyfriend is a fool. When you cheat again, and we both know you will, he will be crushed. And now for our final story. My wife cheated and got pregnant. We want to reconcile and raise the child together. Title says it all. This is all still extremely fresh. The baby was born in August and I was informed of the affair last weekend. I don't feel the need to go into all the details of the situation, but will provide an edit with a complete story if necessary. My instinct was to separate myself from everyone involved. She left my home and all of her things were moved out. I made plans for divorce and to sell my home. That was the first 3 days after I was told of the affair. Since then I've had time to think and talk with my wife. Speak to counselors and search my soul. She is remorseful and feared that I would reject any attempt to reconcile. She takes full responsibility and has made it clear that she is willing to go to any length to repair what we had. I still feel a strong bond to the child. For the entire pregnancy I was led to believe that the baby is mine. After birth it started to become obvious that the baby doesn't share any of my physical traits. I was beginning to get suspicious when I was finally told. None of that changes how I feel about my child. Unfortunately, due to the rapid reactions, it will take her time to fully separate. The affair partner is manipulative and controlling. He also claims to want custody. I am waiting to hear from my lawyer about my decision to reconcile. I feel like I'm rambling on. So I'll get to the point. What do I do? And now for some comments before reading the update. Your wife is a manipulative liar who allowed you to bond with her lover's baby, only admitting to what she'd done when there was no denying it. Don't rush into things or make rash decisions here. You can't trust your emotions presently. Get good counsel. You could make a clean break and do no harm to anyone, especially the little one who is too young to be affected. Thank you. I have emotional and legal counsel. I haven't made any decisions that change my situation for better or worse. Right now I'm taking some time to figure things out. I don't want to say this, but every time you see the poor child, he or she will be the living proof of your wife's infidelity. You are absolutely right. That was my initial feeling. It would be hard to overcome that fact and not think less of the child. Gah. Just know on this one. Your wife is a liar. Every piece of information you get from her should not be taken seriously. She is using the AP to try to control you. He's both an abuser, white knight defend me, and looking to keep you from the kid with custody. These are yet more cheap ploys to keep you emotionally raw and not thinking straight. She respects you enough to allow strangers unprotected sex and get her pregnant. Then to lie to you just long enough that you will feel enmeshed. She is not a good person and you will come to loathe yourself if you allow her to walk back into your life with no consequences. Thank you. And now for the update. Edit. Thank you all so much for your responses. Obviously this is a bad situation. I will be meeting with my counselor today and I'm hoping to gain some more perspective. Her lies and the magnitude of this situation are not lost on me. And yes, it is possible that she is manipulating my emotions. It sounds to me like my desire to put my family back together is misguided. Some answers to recurring questions: why even post about something so obvious? I'm lost. I need some validation that what I want to do could work out. However, the consensus is that it would not. Why come here if you already made a decision? The only decisions that have been made so far distance myself from the situation, protect me, and give me time. The most recent decision was to take time to figure things out and understand my options. This post is representative of my indecision to reconcile and raise the child. What I want does not mean I have made a decision. Why would you choose to reconcile? You have everything to lose and nothing to gain. I'm sure some of you can understand and maybe relate to the fact that I loved my life. I loved the image of our future. Now it has been ruined, but I still want what I had. By reaching out to an experienced community, I'm gaining knowledge I would have only gained with experience. Did you get a paternity test? Yes. I will have the results this week. And that's it for today's video. Don't forget to hit that like, subscribe and notification button. Also, if you enjoyed this video, check out the other ones we posted. See you on the next one. Bye.